Hey everyone, this is Ryan with From Corners Unknown. I hope you're all doing well. A few weeks ago, I had the pleasure of speaking with Talsur, this one-man doom band based in Russia. He plays a bunch of different variants of doom, from funeral doom, even some stoner doom, and more traditional doom. His most recent release, The Gates, which is this real nice, succinct EP, has some elements of black metal in it. Pretty much any release you listen to of his seems to change the style and mood and atmosphere. Really great stuff. But I was fortunate to catch him in his hometown when he was available to chat, and this is a conversation between he and I about his project, how he founded it, and kind of how it's developed over the couple years since he founded it. So I hope you enjoy this conversation with Talsur, learning a bit more about this project. And thank you so much for your continued support, and thank you for any time and support you give listening to Talsur. After this introduction, I'll play a small clip of one of his latest tracks, Barely Breathing, and at the end of the conversation, I will complete it with what remains of that track. So is this the first time you've done you've had a
Okay.
conversation with somebody?
Yes, it's the first time.
Oh,
I'm very excited.
Oh, awesome. So how are the holidays treating you? How was the with the release of your new EP and all that?
You know, I was really amazed by the reaction on this EP
Oh, really?
because I didn't know that people are gonna like it.
I see.
I make doing music since I was, I think, 12 years old.
Oh, wow.
Uh,
Okay.
well, and in my past there was a lot of ideas that I could bring to my new creativity.
I see.
So uh, uh, that was my fourth official release in that year, 2017, and I'm not pretty sure that I could release it,
Oh, really?
but I think I'm sorry.
No,
I'm
you're
excited.
no, you're fine, man. So it's a pretty personal record too. I mean, at least that's the vibe I got, right? Or the EP itself. I mean, based on the description you gave
Yes.
on it, it seemed like that was were these compositions you wrote a long time ago and then you kind of reformulated them and decided to release them?
Yes, there was riffs or some kind of phrases that were, you know, and the first time when I write it, it was like Iron Maiden.
Oh,
but
I
I,
see.
uh, but I especially extremely slowed it down.
Yes. Yes, of course.
So
Of course.
that starts to sound doomy.
Sure.
Well, I think it works.
So when did you just staying on the Gates EP, when did you start writing the songs that are on this EP? Like when did you start writing when did you start writing the songs?
When I released my other EP, Afortorium,
Mm-hmm.
I was holiday a week or 2 weeks,
Uh-huh.
and then I realized that I needed to move in another city on the autumn because I
I see.
studied there, and I understand that I cannot work such good as I can do it in my own town.
I see.
So whole August I worked on the single Medieval Hero
That's right.
and the EP The Gates.
Okay.
And also I work on the fifth album, which is gonna release this summer.
Oh wow. You're already plugging away at it, huh?
Yes.
That's awesome. That's something that I was impressed by when I first found you, and I haven't been able to listen to everything that you've produced, or I haven't been able to just really let it sink in. But I've been trying to listen to as much as I can when I find time. But it kind of amazes me how much you've produced in the last two and a half years. How long has the project been around for?
Yeah, 2 years
2 years. Okay.
since October 2015.
Okay, and this isn't your full time gig, right? Like this is like you said you're studying or you're going to school right now, and this is kind of like your labor of love or your hobby in a sense, or is that not correct?
Um, I don't know because I'm study in Academy of Music.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay,
but
sorry for yeah. I
there
totally. I thought you were
no
doing like I thought you were doing like I don't know.
no
I didn't know what I just made crappy assumptions.
music is all my life
I see. I
because
see.
I first took guitar in my hand when I was 6 years old.
Oh,
Then was musical school. Then were college, and today I'm studying in the Russian Academy of Music, Gnesins.
interesting.
But there we play more jazz or fusion, so all
Interesting.
that stuff.
Huh.
And heavy music was always my, dark side,
Sure.
and
Yeah, of
I
course.
always liked it. And 5 years ago, there was, 5 years ago I was 16.
Hmm.
And when you're 16, all your life is a big depression.
Yeah, of
So
course.
I started to listen to doom metal.
I see.
There was My Dying Bride, Paradise Lost, Type O
Oh,
Negative,
nice. Okay, cool.
all these
Yeah.
guys, and I think it very helps me.
Yeah.
And I think that my music can help someone another. So I decided to work on it, and in 2015 I founded Talsur.
Awesome. So, so I guess I'm genuinely interested when I speak with artists, kind of the like the origin of their interest in music, or kind of like some of their fondest and earliest memories. So I guess before we get too deep into your project, going back to, you said you picked up guitar when you were 6. So like where did it yeah how did that all start? What was like, some of the first artists that you listened to or your parents showed you that like where it really clicked and you're just like, oh, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life?
Oh, this is a long story because it's there's so much.
And
Um,
you can give, it doesn't have to be the whole thing if you don't want, but we got time. I like to keep these recordings, decently long,
well,
like 40 minutes to an hour or a little longer. It's really up to you.
well, I remember as my brother, when I was 5 years old,
Hmm.
my brother brought me a cassette with the Metallica album "Ride the Lightning,"
Oh, nice.
and it's my favorite album of all time.
Awesome.
Uh, Also, my mother tells me that s- uh, a little bit earlier, I uh, I saw the show of Ozzy Osbourne on the TV,
Hmm.
and I think I was 3 years old,
Oh, wow.
but I don't remember it, and
Okay.
it's very sad. It's very sad. So, and also I know that my mother used to listen to Scorpions when she was pregnant,
Oh
so I
wow.
think I think it had an influence on me.
Sure, sure. Before you were even out in the world, huh? That's awesome.
So the first one was Metallica, Ozzy Osbourne, Pantera,
Of course.
and all these kids.
Okay.
Then I used to listen to Russian music,
Okay.
all this stuff,
Okay. Yeah.
and I think that's where in fashion when in 2008 or 2009 was such a metalcore band,
Okay.
and then I discovered to myself a Bullet for My Valentine, Trivium,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
all that.
Those are some of
Of
the
course,
those are some of the cornerstones for me too. At least Trivium, I remember listening to them fondly, and then I grew out of it pretty soon afterward. But
yeah,
I remember them for sure.
yeah, they're cool.
Yeah,
And I think musical education gives me a lot of experience because
I see.
right now when I work on the fifth album,
Hmm.
I listen at the same time My Day in Pride and
Okay.
Ludwig van Beethoven
Okay.
because I think they were they had uh, very similar
I
ideas
see.
of fighting with the fate.
I see.
So that's close to me.
I see. No, that's very interesting. So, how did you fall into producing Doom? Like, what was the moment where you were like, "This is what I want to make"? Like, this is like kind of the origin of Talsur, the project. When did you know this is something you
Uh,
needed to like start working on personally to kind of get out into the world?
well, that was 2013.
Okay.
Uh, I heard the song "Eternal Autumn" by Forest of Shadows,
Huh. Never
and
heard of them.
it's very it's also a one-man band
Oh, cool.
and Norwegian,
Norwegian. Okay.
if I remember.
Okay.
Well, it's very very catching
Okay.
because it's extremely match with my mood
I
at
see.
that moment.
I see.
So I think since
And
then all started.
what was that mood specifically?
Oh, I remember that was winter,
Uh huh.
cold, dark Russian winter.
Yeah, I can't even
uh,
imagine. I can't even imagine how dark and cold it gets. I
yes,
can't even
yes.
fathom it.
There was some of problems in my personal life,
I see.
and you know some some problems with people who I study with, and all that stuff. I was really, really gloomy, really sad. So that helps me
I see.
really.
So is it? This may be an inane question for you, but when you produce this music, is it very cathartic, working through the writing process of each song and releasing it, or putting together an EP or a full release and releasing it out into the world?
Yes, that means a lot of me to me
Okay.
because when I listen to it, you know, every time when I release something, I don't want to listen it maybe 1 or 2 weeks,
I see.
and then my ears relaxing,
Yeah.
and I hear many new moments.
I see.
And when I re-listened to my EP, The Gates,
Hmm.
uh, that was uh, that was very strange because I know that these riffs, these ideas were first written by another man,
Yeah.
another 12 years old boy.
Yeah. Of course.
So it's very interesting feeling.
Yeah, to see how. Yeah, I can't even imagine what that would be like. Just you write it so much younger, and you're such a different. I mean, just changing day over day or year over year, but such a long gap, and then it's actually pretty neat though, or it's pretty amazing. So how do you? What about like? So the elements on display in a lot of your songs. Well, okay, no. Let's not go there yet. So I'm curious about your kind of the breadth of doom you create, because each album I've listened to so far, they all seem unique in a way. Like, you got some funeral elements in one, and then you had
Yes,
your medieval
yes,
hero, and that was like your stoner doom, and I love that. And then you even have like on the gates, I kind of got some almost death metal vibes in parts, or at least some
yes.
blast
Black
beating.
metal.
Yeah, and the
So
black metal, yeah, and
yes,
I was kind of blown away. And when every time I go back and listen to it, I'm like, geez, like every album kind of embodies its like it has its own essence. It's not the same sound, and you're just reshaping and making it better. It's like you're kind of jumping around and really experimenting. So how does like what compels you to do that, or is it like how do you does it sync up with your mood at the time you're producing something? I just don't know how to word it correctly, but like, how does it work?
well, I think it all depends on the story that I want to tell. Because
Okay.
since second album, I think, Winds of Ezreal, I worked on some story with every album is a separate chapter,
Okay.
and listener is a hero of the story.
Okay.
So I think that extremely important.
I see.
And I don't know how those people who like my music can go through it, but
Sure.
I think it works.
Yeah.
So the first two albums is about ourselves, about how we're raping our own home,
Hmm.
and sins of humanity forced Israel to burn all around,
Hmm.
and uh, after the death of world
Hmm.
becomes emptiness in Anitus at the
Sure.
Latin. And then Hero realizes that he completely alone.
Hmm.
Loneliness is the theme of fourth album.
I see.
So in due of this story, I chose my specifics of genre
Hmm.
for each album.
Okay.
And of course, it's a chance to me for I know that not only Doom, my damn,
No,
I
you're fine.
forgot the word.
No, you're fine, man. No worries. No worries. So, how is it like what compels you to incorporate so many just different cuz when I listen to this stuff or listen to your music, I get a lot of I get some touches of symphonic elements and maybe some neoclassical bits with the
Yes, yes,
piano, and that I think that really breathes some new. It makes it unique because I don't listen generally. I don't listen to a lot of doom where you have all those different elements kind of interwoven into the compositions. But what compels you to like what's your background in that stuff, and what compels you to kind of weave that into
I don't
your
know.
doom?
Maybe I want to show the people that music is a boundless ocean,
Sure.
and it's there no any. I combine I try to combine all the genres that I can,
Hmm. Yeah.
and I think it shows that music is very cosmopolitan
Sure.
thing. So
Yeah.
I think that's main thought that I try to say.
I see. And how do you where does your background like what's your background in a lot of these different elements? Is this something that you've because you said you started playing guitar around 6, were you also
Yes,
playing piano and all those
yes.
other
I
instruments?
also
Okay.
yes I play piano. I 7 years played the classical piano,
Oh
and of
wow.
course I listen to classical music,
Hmm.
so I know something about the orchestra and all that stuff,
I see.
and it very helps me.
I see.
And of course, I sometimes asking advice of my teachers,
Hmm. Hmm.
and they helps me a lot.
I see. How if you don't mind me asking, do you have you turned some of your teachers on to your project? Like, have you shown them your work before?
No,
No.
no, I really scared.
Oh, okay. No, I was curious if you've ever shown it to them, and been like, "Hey, what do you think of this? I know it's not what you're teaching, but okay." So
No.
how about the how about the cleaned vocals? Because that's something that really blew me away the first time. And I'll be honest, the first time I was like, I was not expecting that. But the more I kind of let the songs marinate, I think it adds a really nice texture to each of the songs. Because it's a very, it's not like, it doesn't come off as forced. It's just like a very soothing, nice delivery that you give. So, how did you get into delivering vocals in that style? Like, what compelled you to do that?
Well, clean vocals is my very big problem.
I see.
Still, I start recently. I started to practicing with my girlfriend.
Okay.
She's vocalist,
Cool.
and uh, but then when I just started, I didn't know how to sing right.
I see.
I just wanted to sing,
Okay.
uh, and you know about clean vocals. It's self-education
Okay.
most of all. But I can say about extreme vocals, the perfect example of extreme vocals for me is Anders Jacobson of Draconia,
Oh, okay.
because
Okay. Yeah.
it's I understand each word he screams, although he screams.
I see.
So I try to do that.
Okay. No, that's interesting because that's something that I was gonna ask about as well. Because you definitely seem to make sure the lyrics you are displaying for listeners, or you're singing for listeners, or growling. You definitely it appears that you're trying to make sure it's at the forefront and people know what you're saying, and the lyrics
Yes.
seem to take on a pretty important role in articulating your story. And I think that the stories you tell with some of this stuff, it's I would admit some of it's pretty depressing when I listen to it, but I
Yes.
really do appreciate the effort to make it understandable, so I don't have to go read the lyrics while listening to try and figure out what the hell's going on.
I'm trying.
Yeah. So how has it been for you developing your clean vocals? I mean, it sounds like it's a constant work in progress, but how has the evolution of it been from the first album you released to the Gates EP?
Well, I think it was on the first album. It was so I don't know. So seems like singing a little girl. I don't know.
Sure. Sure.
It's so shy, so
Yeah.
uh, undefinable. And the Gate CP, I already know what should I do, what should I say
Hmm.
to listeners. I know. I think most important thing that I know for who I work.
Okay.
I know that this music and these lyrics will be heard.
Hmm.
So that's really that's burns the fire inside me.
I see. I see. And
Well,
how has it been received by people? Like, do people generally take pretty well to it? Because this is, when I listen to the clean vocals, and as I said, it's something that I don't come across too much in Doom. Maybe I need to listen more Doom, honestly. But how do people? Is it somewhat of a divisive thing for folks when they listen to your music, or do people seem to like absorb it and take it in pretty well?
I don't know. I
Okay.
think every man decides for himself what he wants to listen and
Sure.
what he will do with information that he knows.
Of course.
But I hope that my music, first of all, help someone going through troubles.
I see.
Although my music as Doom in general is dark and gloomy,
Yes.
I think it's catalyzes
Yeah.
to resolve some problems.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I definitely get that vibe when I listen to it. It's kind of like the doom and gloom, and it's heavy, but I think the lyrics and the clean vocal deliveries definitely kind of help, you know,
Yes,
cradle listeners in a way with it kind of like brings solace to it, which is a really interesting contrast I get when I listen to this just when I listen to it. It's a very engaging listening experience. So we covered a bit, or we covered, some of the different elements that or some of the different styles and flavors of Doom, but what really so does I don't know if this would be repeating myself per se, but how do you fall into, each release? Like, how do you approach producing each release? Like, how do you know if you're gonna, do on Medieval Hero you did a more stoner doom approach, and then on this album you had more of a, you had some, like as you said, black metal, death metal. Like, how do you know where to take your doom experimentation with each
I think
release?
it depends on the some ideas that I already have. When I start to working, I listen to all of my riffs, phrases, reading some my lyrics, and I decided deep inside me that that's gonna look like some My Dying Bride. That's gonna look like Type O Negative, all that stuff.
I see. Okay.
So
How is the and how is it for you operating in, just on the internet and all that? Because it's been interesting with me talking to a couple people, kind of getting their opinions on getting your music into the world and getting people to listen to it. How has it been kind of, getting folks to listen to your compositions and such on the web? Like, do you plan to do any sort of physical releases in the future, or are you just gonna leave it all digital? Like, how does that?
I thought about physical releases in the last year, but I started to talk with the man from one of the labels. But when I sent him my no some of the lyrics, he he disappeared.
Disappeared.
Yes.
Oh,
So
I'm
I
sorry.
I very I very afraid that uh, he will publish my lyrics as his own, but I don't think so.
No, I hope
Well,
not. I hope not.
so that's I'm not so disappointed by this, but I think for physical releases and all that stuff with labels and publishing, now isn't the time
I see.
for
Okay.
it.
How is it being like a one man Doom outfit? I know that there are, two pieces and such, and there are probably a bunch of other one person outfits, but how is it going at this alone? I mean, is it generally a pretty difficult undertaking to produce each of these records, like all the components that you're cobbling together for these releases?
Yes, for me, one-man band is just easier because it's first of all, it's very personal for me.
Yes. Yes.
Since I was started, I didn't want to involve in it other people.
I see.
Also, first months of existing Talsur, I didn't want to tell anyone that this is I am. Even my friends didn't know.
Oh wow! Did you
I was
did you show them some of the stuff though? You're like, oh, I found this cool band, or I found this band. What do you think? Like, did you try and get like an unbiased or like a just a reaction from people?
no, I just thought a million times, and
I see.
I decided that that's silly. So no, I think I feel more comfortable when I work on my songs by myself.
Okay.
So I think also I have a few projects in Moscow with the guys who I'm studying with.
Oh really?
So we're playing jazz, fusion, all that stuff, blues rock.
Okay.
But Talsur doom metal is only mine,
Okay.
only
Okay.
mine.
Yeah. So how I did notice on one of your releases too, you had that I think it came out it's almost been a year actually, the Slew of Despond, that kind of funeral doomy depressive. Yeah, how I noticed that EP or that album, maybe it's probably more of an LP. I think it's a pretty long record. How it seemed like that one got quite a bit of attention, or it got quite a bit of like a handful of people really got into that one. I mean, based on some like the Bandcamp, I was surprised to see just like the number of people who were purchasing it or listening to it. Like, how did that come about?
It's also surprised me because
Really?
I remember that. God, it was 1 year ago.
Yeah, I think.
I'm so old.
Yeah, no, I think it was
Oh,
January 13th. I saw that. I went
yes,
online and I looked, and I was like, oh man, that only came out a year ago. But I saw just the number of people that purchased it or supported it, and I was kind of blown away. I was like, oh crap, I just
yes, it
was not.
surprised me because I recorded this album on in 2 weeks.
Wow, really?
Of course, songs I write in songs on 4 or 5 months,
Uh huh.
even in Moscow. But when I came in my own town,
Hmm.
I started to record it, and it took me 2 weeks.
Wow.
Then I released it in the internet,
Hmm.
and uh, I think in 1 week I I get the email that for a slow despond someone paid $1.
I mean,
and I
that's better than just somebody
yes,
downloading it, right? And then just like, oh,
yes,
I paid.
and I thought, what? so so almost a year.
Yeah.
It continues, and people like it. Uh, Even 2017 was more 3 releases.
Hmm.
These people like Slow Despond more of all.
Yeah.
I don't
No.
know why.
What is compelling to me is that record relative to the Gates or your Medieval Hero. I would think people would eat Medieval Hero up because like Stoner Doom seems to be a pretty large genre. There are quite a few Stoner Doom bands going right now that I really like, and I would think people would be all over that. But yeah, I was genuinely surprised that the number of people picking that one up. I don't really. Yeah, I was curious if you just had any insights, if you ever got feedback as to why people were really into it or not.
Yes.
What is 2018 looking like for you? I guess for Talsur and on a personal note. So you're still going to school and such, but what does 2018 hold for you? 'Cause-
Yes. I'm still studying in academy, and Of course, the main event of 2018 is the fifth album,
Okay.
uh, which is will be released in July.
Cool.
So I think there will be more projects because I met in the last year I met some amazing people.
Hmm.
And I think about some split with the ambient project.
Really
Uh, yes, I work.
interesting.
I work on it, but the work only began.
S-
So fifth album interests me right now more.
Okay.
So I think it's gonna work.
Okay. Yeah, and so how is the from the time you established Talsur to now, how has the project evolved? Has it gone places that you really never anticipated it'd go? You know, how has it been just as an from a project perspective and like from an evolutionary perspective of your personal self? How has it changed you as well?
I think uh, I I become more hopeful because this depression and maximalism it disappears. I don't know how it happens,
And is this
but
while you're
I think
is this while you're writing songs or you're kind of creating music? It kind of goes away.
yes, I think that's depends on it.
Okay.
And also in my life, there was a few turning points in 2017 that totally changed my mind. So I think that's very important because I didn't left Talsur, I didn't left doom metal. I still like it,
Yeah.
and I gonna do music till I die.
Okay.
But the angle of my view is changed.
I
So
see.
I think it's interesting.
In what sense
for
is
for me, for me.
in what sense is the angle changed? If you don't mind me asking.
The point of view on some things
Okay.
is another because I was very pessimistic. I'm still very pessimistic, but
I see.
I teach to hide this.
I see.
So
So what do you want when you have people engage and listen to your music? What do you want listeners to feel? I know you touched on this a bit, but just as a more pointed question, what do you want listeners to really like take away from your music when they listen to it?
I want them to I want them to listen my music with you know in trouble years, trouble moments of their life, and maybe although they will be alone, totally alone, they when they will listen to it. But I think I hope that my music will become them a real friend
Okay.
with which they could talk, with which they could spend hard times.
Sure.
So I have this music that can be my friend, and I pretty sure that anyone in the world have this music, and I'm happy to be part of this music if it happens.
Sure. Well, what about the project? Have you not really divulged or spoken about to folks that you want people to know about the project? Is there, are there certain details you want people to know about Talsur that haven't been made apparent to the public or anything?
Well, you know, the most I think the most amazing thing that surprises people. That I recorded my albums in a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
So I think
that is pretty amazing.
that's that's the most serious detail that people may know,
Yeah,
because
definitely.
I'm very honest with the listeners,
Sure.
because I feel responsibility on me as an author.
I see.
So I do not see sense to hide something something.
Sure. And do you just do you play every instrument that's on display in your records, or do you do like programming of the drums? Like, how does that work?
Yes, I program in drums
Okay.
because
Okay.
a study in our own town, there there is no not much studies in our own town, and I do not have so much money.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, drums are programming, but I play guitars,
Okay.
play keyboards,
Yep.
play bass,
Yep.
and vocals.
Okay.
Of course, um, FL Studio helps me a lot when I need some orchestra or that stuff. But
I see.
more more work happens on.
I mean, I think I've covered most of the questions that I have. Is there anything you want to tell folks that I'm missing with my questions? Is there anything that you, because this is your first conversation or first interview of some sorts, but is there like something that you really want to get out, or let people know about in this? And
What I wanted to say to people is always the same. So have a good holidays.
yeah, yeah,
Listen to good music. I'm
yeah,
happy if my music is part of this good music,
sure.
and of course, stay Doom.
Stay doomed. Yep, yep.
So,
What about like a live setting? Do you ever plan to play any of this stuff live with people, or is it just going to be kind of an online studio passion project, or kind of like your?
when I started, I decided to abandon some live performances.
Okay.
But a year or two ago, I think about some acoustic stuff. But I still feel that not today.
Okay.
Maybe later.
Maybe
Maybe
later.
later. But I think I not abandoned at all.
Okay. So it's still a
Just
possibility.
later.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And what's the music scene like where you are? Because I don't know much about. I've only listened to a couple bands from Russia before that I'm aware of, and where you live and you study, like is there is there a scene of doom where you are, like doom music, or what is it generally over there?
I do not title of the genre that our guys playing, but about doom metal, I can say that in my own town there was a band called Ember Tears, and I know their drummer. We study in the same academy, so
Oh, okay.
Russian music is very subjective
Okay.
because it's aimed at its listener. It depends on some social points of view or mentality, and the most important thing in Russian music is the lyrics.
Okay.
So that dependence on the lyrics spawned a genre called Russian rock,
Russian rock. Okay.
and it was in the end of the 80s, beginning of 19s, and still some guys developed this genre with their own background, and I'm still call it Russian rock because I can't see more of it.
I see.
So I think it's the main thing in our scene.
Okay. when you started the project to where you've gotten now, I mean, how has it, has it gone places you really didn't anticipate it to go? Like, how has it kind of, all the different sounds you've experimented with? I mean, how is it, what has Talsur taught you about life so far? In your, how old? You're 21, 22?
20.
Oh shit. Okay. I need to do my math a little better. So what is it taught, like, what has Talsur taught you about life so far?
I can't even say, because
Loaded question, I know. It's a loaded question, but I like to ask that, because sometimes I get some interesting responses, and sometimes it's just like, yeah, that's a stupid question. It's like, I know. I'm curious if you've really like latched onto something from music and you've really embraced it and been like, yeah, this is living.
I can't say something special, but because all my life or all my childhood was making music, making or practicing, and so that's just my life, and I didn't separate these things. Well, my parents, they are in the next room right now,
Yeah.
but they don't know about Talsur, the same thing. They just know that there is something that I should record, or something that I should do with music in general. They don't know about my projects.
Your parents don't even know about your project?
No.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing to me. Like, that really is, that it's like you can keep the lid on it that tight. Like, you can actually, you don't tell folks about it. That's actually really interesting. Yes. Is it still something a little, is it too personal? Like, do you feel like if you told certain folks that are close to you about it, it would be like, it would expose you in some way, or like, are you nervous about it?
I feel that I'm too shy to tell them and to show them, because when my mom asked me to sing something, I always was shy. So that's from childhood.
I see. Well, I guess as kind of a closing question for conversations, I like to ask artists who, maybe 2-3 bands or record labels you've recently stumbled upon that you recommend folks check out. New stuff that they like, just to kind of keep the information moving around. Are there certain people that you've stumbled upon that really inspired you or blew you away?
In 2017, there was a great album by Frowning. It's a one-man band from Germany. Frowning. It's very raw sound, but I totally like it. I like to plug it here.
Yes.
And go on the walking in Moscow. It's very helps.
Is it doom?
Yeah, it's funeral doom metal.
Oh, funeral doom. Okay.
And also 3 or 2 years ago, there was a Moscow band called Pale Crow.
Pale Crow. Okay.
Pale Crow. They released an album, and it totally blows me away, because it's a band which consists of 3 guys. Mm-hmm. That recorded and mixed their album by themselves.
Oh, cool.
But when you listen to it, you cannot say it. It's very big grow. If Russian music, if all Russian music will be such as Pale Crow, that will be amazing.
Okay.
I think.
I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me. And
thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time, man.
Thank you, man. That's honor for me.